Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the forecast discussion for Saturday, February 6, 2021. We are once again combining the public and the premium discussions, much like last week where we were wondering what's going to happen with this winter storm. We're going to break down some of the features, go over some of the data, and then we're going to discuss the forecast. This is typically what I do every morning for premium members, and I like to do this ahead of storms so that way the general public is best prepared for these major winter weather events. Now, last time we were here, this was going to be a long duration event, right? It was going to last for days. This time, it's more like hours. It's actually exactly like hours. And it's going to be coming in like a freight train. So if you have plans to travel in the morning tomorrow, you're going to church, getting ready for the Super Bowl, whatever, okay? Whatever you have to be doing at, let's say, 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, I would suggest you not do it because you're going to be driving in a very, very bad period of time where you're going to be dealing with heavy snow, visibility falling below a mile. Some locations along, let's say, southern New Jersey, you're going to get mixed with sleet and freezing rain, changing over to rain, back over to snow, making for slick roadways. And besides, also, you're probably going to have your flight delayed at the very least. The good news, though, is that all this moves through fast. So by the mid to late afternoon hours, this is all gone, and you'll have a chance to clear out your snow. And yes, since I've gotten tons of questions about this, you will be able to watch your football game. Aside that, hopefully there's no power outages or anything, but let's hope that doesn't happen. So let's take a look at some of the data, okay? Currently, right now, we have a modified polar air mass in here with temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 30s over the interior, upper 30s to lower 40s in the New York City metro, and mid to upper 40s as you head down towards southern New Jersey. When we take a look at the surface map, there is our storm. You can see it very nicely here on the radar. Precipitation starting to get drawn northward from the Gulf Coast. Starting to see precipitation break out around Kansas City and Oklahoma City. You're seeing rain and a little bit of thunderstorms. And on the water vapor satellite picture, you can really see the shortwave here organized very nicely. Now, admittingly, earlier on this week, I did not think that this storm was going to be able to produce because the pattern overall is pretty flat out here. What I mean by that is that you have shortwave after shortwave coming into the West Coast and over the Rockies. And so typically when you have below normal heights over the western United States, it's really, really hard to get a storm to develop over the northern mid-Atlantic. Essentially, you have to, what we call in meteorology, thread the needle, where these short waves interact just right to produce the storm event. That doesn't happen very easily. This time, it's happening. So it seems like we're in this stormy weather pattern. We'll be on that, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. So with that stormy weather pattern, you could see this short wave starting to intensify here. You could see the nice rising air here. You could see the sinking air here. So obviously, very strong rising component. You're seeing the interaction between the polar jet stream up here. And so when you take a look at the infrared satellite picture, you can see the cloud tops are starting to cool. That's a sign of air rapidly rising in the atmosphere. So everything is coming together this morning to say, hey, look, storm's developing, get prepared. And so right now we have optimal data ingestion and we can see how the storm's evolving. And so we have a pretty good idea of what to expect with this storm based on this data. And one of the things we're looking for is the lifting parameters. So this is from the spc.noaa.gov website where we take a look at the mesoscale data. And first thing I want to show you is right here, potential vorticity, advection. Now you see this right here. This is our trough. It's in what we call a positively tilted orientation. This is going to be heading towards the mid-Atlantic coast, and as it does so, it's going to tilt into a slight negative orientation, which allows for lifting to become enhanced. Now that very, very slight negative trough that's going to be reaching the mid-Atlantic coast, it's going to allow our low pressure system to intensify. But because we have another short wave on the way here, it basically kicks it right out. Now, what we're going to be looking for in this case is what we call a thermal gradient. In the last storm, we were trying to find out where the jet streak at 850 millibars was going to line up, which would set up bands of heavy snow and very intense snowfall for hours on end. This time, because the storm's moving fast, what we're looking for here is what we call a thermal gradient. Now, this is at 850 millibars. You see this right here? This is called a thermal gradient, and it's also what we call frontogenesis, which is right here. So what we're going to be watching for is where does this area end up tomorrow morning from Philadelphia to New York City to Long Island. That's essentially where we expect that intense banding to set up. To the south, you got a better chance for mixing. To the north, more of a light snow event. And right in between, again, kind of like Goldilocks, that is where you're going to get your heavy snowfall. And that is where a few isolated locations could push into that 10-inch spot. So that's what we're watching very, very carefully in this forecast. And on the model guidance, you can see at this point, you can use the European, the GFS, whatever. You can use the NAM, which, by the way, has performed pretty well. It was the first one to really pick up on the fact that this is going to shift north and west. You could see, first of all, for tomorrow, here comes that trough coming in with that slight negative tilt right here, which allows for that low pressure system to intensify. But notice, look how fast everything's moving. The other storm, you had an upper level low sitting over us, and it just would not stop snowing. This time, everything moves pretty quickly. So that's our first aspect. And then take a look at 850 millibar temperatures right here. Get that to load pretty quickly. And you could see for Sunday morning, there is that thermal gradient. Let's zoom in on it, shall we? When we set this up like this, okay, this tells us that we have a very strong difference between what's going on in the coastal waters and over the mainland. And so when you end up with this environment, and we can go forward, a little bit forward here, 10 a.m., and you end up with this type of gradient that sets up, you can end up with rapidly rising air. Okay, there's your frontogenesis, and that's where you can get the potential for some of that heavier snowfall. And so that is essentially what we're seeing here when we take a look at the surface map, which we'll pull up right here. And when this surface map shows up, you can see the evolution of this storm. So for today, it's pretty quiet. Tomorrow morning, here we go, at around 7 a.m., the precipitation starts to spread northward. By about 9 a.m., everyone's in snowfall, and you get this band of intense snowfall showing up, right? And then that heavy snowfall continues. By about 3 o'clock, the heaviest snowfall is off the coast. Your mixing is over to snow over southern New Jersey. Your moderate bands pushing through Long Island, and this is all like light snow and on and off snow showers. And by the time we get to even really 5 o'clock, by the time we get to 5 o'clock, Jersey Shore is done, Philadelphia's done, New York City's done. By 6 o'clock, pretty much eastern Connecticut and eastern Long Island is left. And by 7 o'clock, it is out of here, impacting portions of eastern New England. So that is the speed of this storm. So as a result, here's what I am generally expecting here with this storm. In zone 1, that's the far northern interior, 1 to 3 inches of light snow. The further north and west you are, the more likely around 1 inch of that. For zone 2, that's where you get your 3 to 6 inches of moderate snowfall. And then zone 3, that is where we have the intense lifting potential. Now notice, your intense lifting potential is closest to where? Your mixing zone. Why? Because that is where you have your clash of air masses between the warm air trying to push in and the cold air trying to stay put. So that is where we're seeing our gradient sets up. And then zone 4, about 2 to 4 inches, that's where you're going to get your mix of snow, sleet, and rain changing over to snow. Zone 3, again, 4 to 8 inches with isolated up to about 10 inches for a few locations. Again, keyword there is isolated. And then beyond that point, well, guess what? This pattern is not going away anytime soon. We have another storm threat that's showing up on Tuesday. Again, this is a fast-moving low-pressure system. We have our Arctic air trying to press south, warm air pushing north. So that's another threat we're going to have to work out and kind of iron out the details on that. And then on Friday, Thursday and Friday, we have another area low pressure, plenty of moisture, cold air pushing south. So that is going to be another storm that we're going to have to watch out for. And oh, by the way, after that, here's our next one. So yeah, we are in a very active winter weather pattern where we're going to be at the threat for significant snowfall, ice, and rain. So be prepared. That is your forecast discussion for today. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. And as always, stay safe out there.